Hello everybody and welcome on today's video. Today we are going to repot this tree trunk Juniper Chinensis, and if I lift this tree from the pot, you will probably agree that it is a good idea to do that. But I planted this tree in this pot a few years ago, and it does not accentuate the character of this tree. And before I used this pot, I used another. I'm going to take it. This one, which is a whole lot more powerful. And since it is so easy to lift this tree because of the root mat, I'm just going to need a few blocks here, because this pot is a whole lot deeper, which is a good thing. Contains a whole lot more soil. I'm going to put this tree in this pot. It is possible I tried it, and that's what it looks like. So you see, I prepared my stuff here, and well, I like it a lot more. It is stronger. I don't know what you think, but I think I'm going to take my chances with this pot. So I'm going to just open up the root ball and plant this tree, in this pot. Of course, I'm going to remove the little blocks of wood. The tree is sitting on its old pot, just to make it a little easier to work with. I'm just scraping away the first 2 or 3 mils of the surface, and at the same time removing some soil from the sides. It's a good time to get rid of some of the weeds. And by doing this, it is a perfect moment to inspect what's going on. Well, it's really time to do it now. The tree is starting to grow. See, the tips of the roots are becoming white, so that means that I'm just in time, or even a week too late. But since this tree is healthy, it will forgive me. And I'm not planning of cutting off a whole lot of roots, because the new pot that I'm going to use is bigger. So I can try to keep as much root as possible. Now, some of these roots became very big, very long, and very thick. So that's again a sign that this tree is healthy. Of course, the turning around roots have to be removed. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work my way around and cut the turning roots, so that the roots starting from the trunk can elongate and slowly but surely fill this whole pot with healthy new roots. Now, this tree is quite old. I had it for quite a long time, and I think it already has a very good and consistent root system. There's always a point where you have to cut some roots, because if you continue tearing, that's worse. Especially thick roots turning around. This tree gets a repot when the pot is filled with roots, and it's every 4 to 5 years. So don't repot on a schedule. Have a look at what's going on, and you will do fine. So, well, it's quite a lot of roots that I can remove. And I'll keep this. Okay. So that's still a whole lot of roots, you know, because the root ball is so consistent. And I'll have a look at the very thick woody roots and maybe reduce them. But there are not too much of them. Okay, so now let's prepare the other pot and proceed with the potting up. So now we have a nice mountain of fresh substrate, like so. Little hill in the middle is always easy. This is a pot with a recurved lip. I don't want to change anything about the position of this tree. I think it looked quite okay in the middle. Let me see. What I'm doing is making this tree a little more in the back. This tree is in the center. This tree is a little more in the front. So it gives some movement to the whole thing. I'm going to rake out a little more here so that all these little roots can now be included in the new soil. Which I'm going to add now. There's nothing fancy about that. And the first thing I'm going to do is press it in with my fingers, because you can do a whole lot of work just with your fingers, and you can easily get under some spots. And chopsticks are really good to use too. But the first round I like to do it with my fingers, because I can feel what's going on then. Okay. A little more. Yeah. So I'm almost there. Just with my tweezers going to fill a little more. And I will be back in a few seconds. The tree is well watered now, and the water is dripping through the drainage holes, so that's why we have drainage holes, of course. You see that we have a few problems. Some parts of the tree are becoming extremely weak. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. So this is very weak. There are a few dead branches here, which of course are not of any good now. I might be able to save this little piece, but then why should I? Because I have this part that I can bring right on top of it. So it's not really interesting to, well, I'm going just to cut this one off and cut that one off. So what I need to do now is remove all the dead parts and thin out a little bit the tops. That part has to be removed, because in the fall I'd like to wire this tree, because I'm a little bit concerned about losing the structure. So you see, there are some little things, of little parts of growth that are starting to stick up. This is dead. And everything that is dead and not really useful I must get rid of. And I must open this up a little so that light can enter again. And it's when we have light again in the tree that we will have some more growths. So just thinning out every little tip I remove. So that light can penetrate. And I have to keep in mind what parts I want to wire and where I want to put them. So this might be a nice little pads. So this is no use, so can get rid of that portion. Of course, when you make the pads in the autumn, then you will have to make flat pads, but in this season we are concentrating on removing the top growth. So this might take a while, of course. If I encounter something interesting, I will let you know. Here I have a completely dead branch. I'm going to show you. I noticed it last fall, completely dead. Well, it's no mystery and no surprise, because I had to do some heavy bending on this branch, and so I don't care too much, because I have this branch that can fill up this hole. But it is possible to gin this branch, but this is going to be a too long gin, so I'll probably just cut it away like so, and then gin it. So you split the wood. All the gins are not so easy to make. Yeah. And then you try to open this up. You can use pliers or your old scissors. And you roll the wood. It makes it a little more natural. It's not a pencil you're trying to make. So that's how you make a gin. Nothing really complicated. It takes time to make a nice one. It takes time to make anything that's nice. Okay, well, this is good. Just removing a little more of the bark, and the rest nature will take care of it. And maybe I can refine it more in the autumn and give it some color. But for the time being, what I need to do is to get this foliage to be healthy. I've now cleaned out the most sticking out parts, and I'm trying to do something about the pads here to make them have a nice shape. So you see, I just finished this one. There's nothing more growing at the bottom, and it has a nice little form, little shape. Try not to cut into the needles. They'll get brown, but honestly, if you cut into the needles and you do it like you do a haircut, you will have some brown tips, and after a few weeks the brown tips will die off completely, fall off, and you'll just have to clean it up by brushing it gently with your fingers, and no harm done. So I'm going to try to clean up the other pads and remove some more of the dead material. You see, you can start working from the top, and then you see some stuff, and then you sit down and look from another angle and you see different stuff. So yeah, quite a lot of work to do on a juniper every now and then. Another thing that is obvious is that some parts become weak, and that's because some parts become too strong. So balance the tree, balance the energy, and you will have stronger growth at the lower parts. Let's hope it works. So this branch is extremely weak. You see, when I hide the rest, there's not a whole lot on it, and that's no surprise because it's directly under this one, under this one, under this one, so it's completely shadowed out. So that means two things: or I have to remove a whole lot of foliage here, or I have to remove this branch and fill the gap with something different, which is not a problem because there is something different. Or I can try to reposition this branch and bring it more in the front, and this is what I'm going to do, because if this branch survives now because it has more sun, well, it will give me an interesting spare branch in the future. And if it dies, well, I think it was supposed to happen eventually. And it might just add this little pad that blocks the trunk a little, so that it is not really a straight piece of wood here that we see, but that might be something interesting. So of course I'm not going to trim anything on this branch. I'm going to keep it that way. I might have some mites here, so that's something I will have to attend to also. So I'm almost done, and here you see the foliage I removed. Now you see, it's not a whole lot, and it's not supposed to be a lot. On junipers, it is not a good idea to remove too much foliage. They really need it. So you remove 10%, no problem, tree will respond well. And because some branches are weak and the top of course is always strong, I have even a little berry here. Oh, that's cool. Well, it fell, it doesn't matter. That's a little juniper berry. Here. Man! Well, okay. So of course the top is always dominant on trees, and so probably in a month or two I can even reduce the top a little more and let this strengthen, and that's what we want. We want to balance the strength in this tree. So I'm now removing little plucks of moss from the trunk, because if you want nice bark to form, you can better remove some moss from it, but not all, because a little bit adds just this savage feeling to the tree. And if you remove a nice pluck, well, then you can plant it in the fresh soil and you can have new moss growing there. So basically that was the work that I wanted to do today. So yeah, well, planting this moss is not really an exciting thing to watch, and it is also not very interesting. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.